meet you, though. I appreciate the time very much. So
I'm excited about this, Dan. It's I've scrolled through YouTube, watched a few clips here and there, and so it made me just more nervous but also still excited.
well, I'm excited too. Pricing is fascinating, and I like people that get their hands dirty. I feel like I know enough about pricing to convince the lay person that I know about pricing, but I don't understand pricing for anybody.
Even after working in a pricing software company for almost 7 years, I
Uh-huh.
still feel the same way.
Really? It's harder than people think. So, like, here's mine. This is my trick. 4 C's. I go, hey, go figure out your costs. Go figure out the competitors and what they're charging. Go figure out the costs and the value associated with it, and then associate any of your channel partners that need to be accommodated so you can use that as leverage. And I go, all four of those just kind of give you a zone of where to price, and then go there. And I sneak by on that one. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I was looking through some of like the case studies and stuff like that, and I was going, all right, so there's so many things I wanted to ask about, because there's like the reality of there's AI pricing SaaS, but there's also, I wanted to ask just if it was appropriate to go into the overlap of just pricing AI and different SaaS models that are kind of emerging.
So since I'm not with Pricefx anymore, but I am still a passionate pricer and very passionate about Pricefx in general, I can speak. I can attempt to answer just about any question you want to throw my way.
Do it.
Uh,
Cool. That's actually even better though, because like obviously there's tons of like GDM expertise and stuff there.
yes.
And a big part of it that I'm looking at is just dealing with new and emerging and just revised business models. Um, like you're obviously a Claude user, so Claude amongst they're all interesting, and I've never simultaneously felt like I was like battling a product before. And I call it like conspiratorial. I'm like, there's a product manager in Claude somewhere whose job it is to slow me down. Um, like the
I've
path
even
forward is very obvious, and I know for a fact, like 4.7, you deliberately nerfed that thing. You slowed us down. You withheld routines. You withheld webhooks. I can't fire like existing conversation prompts on events and things like that. Like I know you're doing it. Um,
it's so wild. And the weapon or the it almost feels like a war right now where people are I shouldn't even say a war. I read something that was comparing tokens to like being a drug dealer.
hmm. Oh, just enough. Yeah. I get it.
Company, the posters from the perspective of a company who turned on Claude for everybody.
Yeah.
And they said, go use it. And then people did. And they were like, I'm out of tokens. I need more tokens. I need more tokens. I need more tokens. And they've created this like rush. So then they're like, great, we'll just start getting people more tokens. Okay, that sounds great. But then they had to finally pause and say, is this actually producing anything? And that's, I think, one of the universal themes I see across AI adoption, even with companies that are very AI forward in the products that they're selling. They're
Yeah.
really struggling on AI internal use and understanding how to use it effectively. And you and I know we go into Claude and the default model it's going to give you,
The most expensive, newest one.
maybe not the one you need for that task,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh
or,
yeah.
Lord help you if you have to switch in the middle of a chat task, if you're just in chat and you're running on Opus and you're like, I guess I don't, it's great to use Opus over in co-work or code when you're coming up with the big planning part of it. But then once time to execute, drop down to a lower
Yeah.
model.
Kind of came to the conclusion that like um, my own hypothesis. One, you want to build an architecture that's independent of any provider, because we had built a bunch of stuff on OpenAI. We switched to Claude. We like Claude. We had our own agents simultaneously that had their own API connections, and have very much found you want the premise. I think about it like it's like a tic-tac-toe kind of thing where I go vertically. You want to be able to basically build out an architecture that kind of mimics the organization chart, where you have different roles that report to others as an orchestrator. We built that in our own kind of deployment. And then simultaneously, each of those tiers need to be reflected and mimic the model. So they get dumber as they go down, because usually the smaller the task gets, the more narrowly scoped it is. And oftentimes the higher the volume it is, right? Where it's like going through and it's, writing, personalized messages or whatever, and you have to do thousands of them. And it's like, well, now I've got it relatively partially designed. And then as you get higher, you want more executive function and decision making. And you go, I want to bring in more scope, and it may cost more, but it's like it's at the end of a pull request or something in GitHub for merging code. And now it really costs money if you get all these different. So no. Go ahead and I'll use the kind of bigger models. But very much battling the reality of I want it, but I need it to some extent to be portable, just because, like in the last week, I got bit hard by utilizing Claude, which I really liked because mostly the data connections and how simple it was to get those things in there. And then a week later going like, oh, this was one of the better experiences I had to, holy crap, you just wiped out like basically a week worth of work by nerfing all of my models and all of the stuff that we built like a week ago that had routines and all of the structure to it had been running, but even just hallucinating. It was no longer, it wasn't creating events. It wasn't creating drafts. It wasn't creating pull requests. It just said it was. And ooh, where, when I talk to like business owners and we're talking about like adopting AI, and they go like, well, yeah, do you lay people off? I go, no, I think the people that are below average are at risk for sure.
Yes.
Because I go, a big part of the benefit for management is at least it tries. And usually like I have like, and have dealt with contractors, employers, I'm like, the work is below average and I just can't even trust them to follow through with something that I need, right? Where I'm just like, at least it tried, I'll take that most of the time.
I was going to say, that's exactly right. I'll say it's been interesting being, on the outside world. The amount I use AI and the amount I've adopted it is exponentially higher than it was when I was in-house, even though I was using it every single day in-house. Right. But now what I can say is like, I truly understand these different, whether it's a co-work task or something like that, these are little mini employees that have single tasks. Some days, and this is just me trying to be optimistic about the way I look at it, some days some days are better than others, just like with a person. Some days that person is fully on, everything they fire out is going to be perfect. Yeah. And other days they just, they had one or two more glasses of wine after dinner last night than normal. They're just a little foggier the next day.
Opus showed up hungover.
Yeah. So sometimes Opus has a little bit of a hangover. But still like, trying, and that's what you want.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed is just how significant it is that you feel it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm going like, cool, we tripled productivity, and then we tripled productivity again, and then we tripled productivity again. But then when that productivity gets paused or disrupted, like it's a significant holy shit, what just happened?
Yes.
So like you get really used to that kind of momentum of you're just going, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's resolving customer support tickets in the background and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you go, wait, it's not. Oh crap, there's a pile of them.
Yeah. That's the part where, AI, I think just like anything else, we have these, AI is not like anything else, but we've always had as humans these ideas of this thing is going to come, it's going to create this disruption, it's going to be terrible for society. And I'll probably very misquote this, but I remember being told there was a statement made about how this new technology is going to make it more difficult for humans to have conversations and relate to one another. And that was allegedly written about the printing press.
Really?
Wow. So I guess there's some fear way back even then that everything we're doing is going to make it so that people don't have to be as creative. People don't have to worry about human relationships. People don't have to interact with one another. But I think as long as we still have these things, like I said, I use AI all the time, but the reason I can tell that it's not working is because I'm using it to do things that I know how to do.
Yeah.
But that I don't need to do.
How do you give me more info on how do you figure out which? Because there's a ton where I go, I want it to remove my drudgery for sure.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things where the drudgery is still a requirement, like, technical sign-offs and stuff like that, where you're going like, no, I need a human and I want a human to actually check. Again, I fell victim to my own like, hey, look how quick we're going. And then I forgot to actually check the raw KPIs and reporting on like resolve customer. I'm like, wait, it told me it did it. I didn't actually check the dashboard. It didn't do it.
Yeah.
How do you kind of decide between the ones that you pick and choose and where you go? I mean, it's you can get lazy and just go, this one's funner than that one, right? There's
Of course. There's definitely if I think about one that I've seen, one that's like I would say a very common use case where I see people misusing it is in content creation.
yeah. Say
Right? So
more on that.
you see, and I think we're all starting, humans are very good at pattern recognition.
Uh-huh.
And we can feel it. We're not sure why, right? And I think it was very easy for people to tell it with some of the visuals that AI was creating
Sure.
early on, even still. But you can see it in the writing styles. So having AI produce your content isn't a bad idea. One of the things that I have Claude do every day is it looks in the folders that I keep finished and working projects in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm terrible about self promotion. So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm going to have Claude help me out with this. It's going to look at the work I'm doing and then generate a piece of content for me. Now, what you sometimes see is that next step, I could go ahead and have Claude just go ahead and push that out and publish it on my website.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't, because there's never been a time where I looked at that piece of content and said, yes, it actually got exactly right what I did in my workflow and how I created this asset for my company. There's
Agreed.
always some nuance to it that it just isn't getting. And
When's the last time you injected a checkbox emoticon into anything like that wasn't just a text message single kind of image response, right? It's like, no, you never wrote a long form content with checkboxes. No, you never.
right, that's exactly right. Like that's just not my style. I love a short dash. I've never been an M dasher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like there's those little things that you wanted to have the hallmarks of you. um I do love a dot dot dot. AI does not like a dot dot dot.
Yeah. I have a bit of the ADHD, and I tend to write in list format in short sentences that are like incoherent thought, incoherent thought. Hopefully they're coherent when there's five of them put together. You can see where they converge again. But I wholeheartedly agree. I've found that I use it as a brainstorming partner, because I'll basically go, okay, I had this thought. I want you to go and research and see if you can back up that thought. And then I want you to poke holes in that thought. And then I bounce back and forth with it to try to, again, the good news is it removes the friction, like the psychological friction, just because, especially like I have horrible handwriting. I've never been good at handwriting. And for that reason, I speed up. I literally, I type on a Dvorak keyboard, right? Like the keys are organized by keystroke. So like AEOU is my home row on one hand and everything. So it's faster. And now I find like I use Whisper, but I don't even type that much anymore. Just because it enables me to get the pen to paper, so to speak, as fast as possible. I'm like, no, that's important. It's fleeting. And I want to make sure that I capture it as quickly as possible.
I think that's actually one of the best cases for AI use.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things, and I know we should talk about pricing stuff at some point in time, but I could go
We'll come
on
back to it.
for
We'll
a
come
while.
back to it.
The thing that I love about what we're seeing right now is that people do have different ways, right? So for a long time, for instance, if you wanted to learn something, and it's still true, the predominant way we learn is reading something that is written, or the way that we're taught. But it's not the way that we all learn. So and it's not the way we all communicate with one another. So that's one of the things that I'm really excited is to see how people start to use AI like you are, where you're talking to it. It's unlocking those ideas faster than you could have gotten them onto paper, whether it was writing or typing before. And that's one of the things that I think is sort of underappreciated right now, of how many humans in this world have fantastic knowledge and ideas, but struggle to get them communicated in the way that society is traditionally expecting, which is write it down, type it out, right? But majority of us aren't binge reading on the weekends. Some of us are.
No, and I
I might.
remember, and I've misquoted it many, many times. So let's just add another one. But like, I remember doing some research back in the day on concept design, where like basically the most rudimentary version of a business idea is just an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with like title, subtitle, picture, and then like I think it's 300 or 600 words or whatever that describe the product, the benefits, and the features of it. And finding out that like the photo itself, actually not pictures worth 1,000 words, and it was something closer to 7,000. It was like they're super efficient at conveying kind of communication. So a big part of just what you even put in the picture was like, all right, what do people, headache medications and stuff, they always put them bottle next to their face, but then they're smiling, proving that they no longer have the headache, right? They like, hey, everything worked fine. Ha ha, you know? and being able to actually think in pictures is like almost that next unlock to some extent, to your point, right? Like we're very good at narrative. We're very good at pictures and imagery and other things. And again, a lot of like letters are a requirement for more nuanced thought and conversation, but also less efficient in the process, right? Um, oh,
And you've probably taken some of these, the number of times I've been in, whether it was actual classroom or just like a professional training thing where people talk about the different learning styles. Some people are more visual, some like written, some like, auditory.
mm-hmm.
I can take that same content now and translate into any one of them. And that's where I think this is a really exciting time from that lens. And it's a part I think people are overlooking. Everybody's very excited about the workflow that they built.
I stumbled across one last night, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but I have an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. He just turned 9. But having some issues with kind of spelling.
Yeah.
And last night, and I've like, this is one of those, like, he has dyslexia, and reading came really easy to me. So it's one of these things where it's really hard for me to identify and even figure out, like, how do you help him learn it?
Yeah.
And last night, I figured out the kid loves funny cat video type crap on Instagram. So I totally figured out that if I hold the phone like this and I'm watching it and you can see, and it was a pug that was like it was basically a pug that was dressed up like Sia dancing behind, like very AI. He can hear the music and he goes, wait, what are you watching? And I go, spell because. And it was, you ever see like the rat and the rats that are like clicking the little bar to like it basically get cocaine or whatever? I was going, all right, this is the actual proper use of social media. I withhold, all right, funny cat video. Oh, wait, this one's farting. And then he's like, please, dad. And I go, spell title correctly. And we got through words faster than we ever have. And I can't decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing yet. Where I'm going, man, usually this takes hours and it's really difficult. This was the fastest that we went through 10 words with correct spelling. Maybe I should do that. Totally out of the blue. I'm like, there's never been a school program built like that. I need to build this thing.
So yeah, build that, it's those endorphin. Everybody wants the endorphin hit from their social media. So.
Right. Well, if you think about it, he gets the dopamine thing. It's a little bit more emotional because he's under a little bit of duress. And I go, he's more likely to memorize this. And then he'll just have to have a spelling test with like a cat in a hula dress or something like that. But yeah. Going, I did not see that coming. Where I've tried damn near everything I can think of to help simplify his learning process. I'm like, that's a very unconventional.
There's that, and honestly, like, who knows what's going to happen 5-10 years from now, where, depending on the type of dyslexia, sometimes that dyslexia, it's just the written word that gets jumbled.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that could help that. It's not that you have to change the brain. It's just adapting to the world we live in. Right. So
yeah, it's super weird counter to think, like the kid can explain how we're all made of stars and how like all the neurofission and everything else that explodes from a star turns into he can explain that. Yeah. But spelling is hard.
Yeah.
It's just, man, it's so weird because just the path to getting to the complex thought is the challenge.
So now you can kind of throw some of this stuff on its end where we used to say like, well, that's a disability. Well, no, is it? Or was it just because we said this was the way that you were supposed to be operating?
I don't know. I think it was
a little out there, but
was it the CEO of Palantir talked about like how the people will benefit from a lot of kind of the Claude kind of interface, and basically the work streams that are associated with it are going to be the neurodivergent ones who can basically start a thread, come back to a thread, jump to this thread. And I was going, oh, game on. This is my jam.
It's funny. I don't think I've met as many people until recently that are willing to talk about having dyslexia, having ADHD, having that in the workplace and not be afraid of the connotation of it, that are like, I have this and here's what I'm doing with AI.
Yeah.
Um, NASA specifically looks for folks with some of those traits because they're more creative in how they solve the problem.
Yeah. It is. Until recently, I didn't realize it was a problem because I knew that I had a hard time focusing, but I have the HD part. I could laser focus when something was interesting. I'm like, if it's really cool to me, I can go deep, and I can go deep for 8 hours. But it has to be interesting. But I can outwork anybody if it's interesting to me. And luckily, I fell into a profession where it actually was, so I got to leverage
I was going to
that.
say we could go on a rabbit hole on that because that was that. I definitely am guilty of the I'll be home from work when I used to go to an office. I'm leaving in about a half an hour. And then I get that one thing that I'm
Yeah.
like, and like 2 hours later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've completely lost track of time because what I'm working on is really interesting. Couldn't focus on anything else during the day. But as soon as that thing got on my radar,
Yeah. I was
time
talking
is
to
gone.
I was talking to someone today about, I was like, I've been depressed several times in my life, but never more depressed when I was working on a really boring job. That was the worst. Like, it was like living in Manhattan and stuff like that. It's supposed to be the best. This is the coolest, best place to live for everything. I was like, I am so depressed because I'm bored. I couldn't
Yes.
get into it. And just every day was murder.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Not a way to live. Absolutely not a way to live. So back to pricing now, because you
Yes.
jumped me back into it. I'm remembering back into it. Like, if you were, and you're obviously dealing with a lot of kind of GTM, company emerging markets, and basically dealing with the tools as well. This is one where I'm watching. We're getting to a point. I don't know if you've seen Claude released another tool called Claude Design.
I haven't seen that one yet.
So if you've ever yeah, I'm going to say had to. So like back in the day, it's the Photoshop, right? The Adobe suite. And like, it was a pain in the ass, and it had a steep like learning, what are layers. You had to learn all these weird, what's the magic lasso tool, a bunch of stuff. You're like, this is not intuitive at all. And then Canva and Figma come along, and they're kind of like a simpler, more intuitive version, and that's largely kind of what they do. But it's like, hey, this is design. I can deploy it into a live kind of workspace, but it can handle logos, and it can actually do a much better job. Claude just basically made a competitor to those and potentially just wiped out billions of dollars of SaaS and enterprise value because they had a ton of customers. They're working with them. But when you're looking around, I'm going like HubSpot, Klaviyo, their market caps are down by half.
Mm-hmm.
And largely because, and I did this a few weeks ago, I was like, I have to customize that damn thing so much. I might as well just build my own CRM, and did it in Notion in 3 days and just went, nope, it's going to be our own databases. It's all internally handled. I've got free reign and access, and I'll build the features that I want when I need them, instead of having and getting a forced upgrade that's an extra $10,000 a year for, 2 fields that I wanted.
Yeah. I think that's where the data we've talked about for the last, I don't know, 10 plus years, everybody has said, is the values in the data. The data is the raw material. And I think that's it. When I'm talking to companies right now, and I'm talking to them about setting up their go to market and their operations that support that, their different channels. It is one of the things I'm thinking about is how big is your company? What do you actually need to acquire? What's going to be more cost effective and get better adoption? I mean, I'm working with one of my former coworkers from Pricefx is starting up his own company right now. So I've been advising him. And I said, you've got to start to track some of this somewhere. You're going to start to bring in more people. You need a track record of who you're talking to, what's going on. So he's like, so should I just go get a CRM? And now I've done multiple CRM implementations, rip and replaces, all the stuff
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah.
And of course, I consulted my good friend Claude, and I went back and forth on this, challenging my own thinking. So I was like, no, whatever he's going to get for that free, the freemium tier product or the low cost product isn't going to have the integrations that are going to keep him from having to go and transcribe something in multiple locations.
Yeah.
And even somebody who is he's a tech background guy. He's not a sales background person. And even he who understands the importance of having your data in a database, getting him to go from email over to somewhere else to put that information in, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
So
The
yeah,
salespeople hate it. That's always they're like, oh, what am I, a data entry monkey, or am I actually supposed to be making sales? Which is arguably a very good point, but simultaneously, you're like, well, how are you going to scale what you do if you don't ever do that either, right? So like,
yeah. And
one of the
that's for a company and the company needs the data. So the job isn't put information into a database. The job is to sell stuff. And then, I've always
core.
viewed this on the operations side as how do we make sure that we're capturing the information as close to the point in time where it's occurring and the place it's occurring,
Mm-hmm.
and remove having to put these, multiple places, or wait until your AE gets back from a week of travel and remembers to put something in a CRM, or your head customer success executive who's been on calls back to back to back to back all day with external and internal. And then she's going to remember at 5 p.m. every little nuanced detail.
Yeah.
So, obviously the
The
gongs of
passive
the world
stuff.
will tell you they've got that solved, but that comes with a pretty steep price tag. That comes with a lot of maintenance. That comes with people, paying attention. There's going to be easier ways to do it. You just did it. You set up a CRM. I just did this for Mike the other day. I was like, great, you've got like 4 people right now. We're just going to set this up. I'm going to build it just I used Claude to help me out, and then just used N8N, and I can't even remember which other tool I used. But that, I think, is the other challenge we're going to see. A very messy tech stack, 'cause there's all these cool free things that we can plug together and make it work. Or I see
Yeah.
the vibe coding happening where it looks pretty and it sort of works,
And
but
then the
it's
back end is a
not
nightmare.
technically, yeah, it's not technically sound. But it's
So that's
going to
what I'm
be.
wondering though, because you're going to see a lot of those enterprise tools. I'm going to see them collapse in many cases where I go, there will be use cases, but again, like I go look at HubSpot as one example. I'm like, they haven't figured it out yet. They definitely, like, again, like the pain point was always, well, I have to read the instructions, and now it's, well, how about I write the instructions because I know how I want it, right? And that's a beautiful luxury, at least in the short term. And I'm looking at just so many of these businesses, and I find even a lot of ours, like we deliberately tried to find products and tools like Wrench AI is like the day job, so to speak. And I've laid awake in bed many nights just going like, wait, what does this world look like in 5 and 10 years? And I've done that repeatedly. And people even laugh at me like, what are you doing in 5, 10 years? I'm like, I don't know what the world looks like, but I know what I'm planning for. And I am planning on going, hey, I know what I did at not even 6 months ago, 3 months ago won't exist in a year or two, at least not in my job, right? Especially, I mean, I largely get paid to know a little bit more than the normal person as far as like AI implementations go. So I went, okay, I think I can find and know what that role basically looks like that does have staying power. And simultaneously, I'm going, man, is it annoying that almost all of the proposals I get have a significantly different tech stack on them, right? Where I'm going, okay, I know what we deploy and I've tried to stabilize that, but simultaneously, it's like the level of what you can do has evolved so much that, again, like now I do have people that are going, hey, like, we used to, 3 4 months ago we would deploy enterprise agents so that you could have a really easy kind of organizational level view with orchestrated agents that can do handoffs and reporting and like ROI and stuff on billable hours and things like that. And even now it's just like, well, now because OpenClaw, like you need to take that and evolve that significantly, and if you want to renew any contract, it better be 3 or 4 times what it did this time last year. So I just go, man, I find myself continually going to the pricing stuff and just going, man, how do I do this? Like all of the clients, at least most companies that I speak to, they want usage-based pricing. They want some sort of budgetary tier. They're just like, look, I'm not afraid of money, but I don't want to go over that. Don't surprise me with a bill. So they want some sort of automated cutoff or usage-based policy. And then simultaneously, they want project rates, and they usually want them totally customized on stuff that no one else is really doing. Like, like I want hourly based attention, but I want it on project rates that don't go over. And I go, damn, every freaking time I'm going, all right, I can use most of what we've done, but still that last 10% seems to be throwing a wrench into, I can't believe we never thought of that, a wrench, but throwing a wrench into, pardon the unintended pun, but into the works where I go like, I feel like I'm rethinking these so damn often, and pricing is hard.
Pricing is super hard. That was one of the things I came to work for Pricefx right after I'd finished my MBA, and I intentionally went to a school where I wanted to challenge my quantitative thinking, and which was good, but that meant we spent a good amount of time in the marketing courses on pricing, like actual pricing science. And so I got out, I got a chance to come work for Pricefx. I was like, this is going to be awesome. I get to do the previous company I was at. We were a holding company. So I ran the shared services. We had 7 subsidiaries. So I was all over the place in corporate communications and marketing across these different portfolios. Came to Pricefx and I was like, cool, I get to work in a pricing software company, which is something that was really fascinating to me. And I get to do one job. So when I started, it was doing the demand gen for one brand. And the thing that I loved about it at the time, we talked about this idea of big companies have data scientists and pricing science teams, and they have the money that they're spending on this stuff. So if you're trying to compete against them, you're not you're not spending millions of dollars with an SAP, and you don't have a team of data scientists, and you're not doing all this. So when you're a smaller mid-sized business, your best bet is going, all right, well, what does the market seem to bear right now? What are my competitors charging? What are my costs? How do I try and figure this out so I can eke out some profits? And depending on the business that you're in, those margins are really, really tiny.
Yeah.
And what I saw them doing was something that was incredibly cool, which was trying to figure out a way to use pricing software, cloud based pricing software solution to make pricing software more accessible to smaller businesses. Now, full transparency, still haven't managed to hit that one perfectly yet. But I think that's coming soon now or sooner because I think AI does change that quite a bit. But I think it does it for 2 ways. One, I think it not only allows better research, so you can start to get that information to help you do a better job of pricing. Again, you still need somebody to check the work, though.
Sure.
But the other side of it is exactly what you're talking about in terms of building some of your own solutions. I think we're going back to that era. We could go back to that era where businesses were pretty bespoke, right? The way a business operated, even if you and I were in the same industry selling the same thing, our businesses were running differently.
Yeah.
And especially service businesses, there was something that was a little bit different about them. And that's why it was so important for companies to hire and retain people and hold on to some of that institutional knowledge, was because they truly were in, 80% standard with a 20% customization a lot of times for their different clients. And over the last, several decades, it became 80% needs to be good enough and just figure it out. We're not customizing that last 20% for you unless you are, spending millions and millions of dollars for us to do custom dev work on top of an existing platform that you purchased. I think that's something that my hope is that that is something that we start to see with AI, because that's where I think we can see more competition between businesses again.
I think your hunch is right. I mean, I've talked to people about this where people are talking about like, look, this is branding matters more than ever. But oftentimes what they mean on that is not like, it's not about your logo. It's not about your presentation, so to speak, but people are going to hire you for your curation and your taste and how you deliver things to them. They want consistency. They want it done a very certain way. And there's going to be, like there already is, long tail kind of Chris Anderson theme. If listeners haven't seen that, like the premise being that with the internet, and especially when it comes to like software and digital services, the switching costs from one product are almost zero. And back in the day when there was a distribution channel and you were limited to like 5 different options, it made sense for there to be 5 companies. But now there can be really small companies building their own CRMs or doing whatever. So you can get a highly personalized version, and the switching costs from your old tool to your new tool are zero. And so you're seeing the rise of these small companies, niche offerings, highly personalized offerings. And I kind of think that's probably what we're going to see, because you'll have small teams, not even 10 people, that will be extremely productive and able to scale pretty dramatically. But they'll be very much hired for their niche ability and the way in which way they deliver that kind of service. But people going, hey, whether it's I work with people that I really, really like working with, or it's just, look, they just know exactly how to nail the flavor that I'm shooting for. I do think like in different ways that is going to be, for lack of a better term, their IP, right? It's like your IP is your taste. It's your curation and how you deliver that same product that could get anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we're seeing it. I think we're already starting to see it with the number of new companies. I can't remember what the exact number was, but just last week I was talking with another former coworker who has started up his own business. And I was joking around about the number. I've never in my entire, professional career, um, encountered a situation where so many people were with leaving their employers without sometimes jobs, or raising their hand and volunteering to take an exit package when they know layoffs are coming, and then they're going out and starting their own thing. And I would love to think it's just because I happen to work with some of the smartest people in the world. And yes, they are all lovely and very intelligent people. But I think it's also because it is much easier now to do some of these things without, without those barriers you had before. Before you had a barrier where you're like, I've got an idea, but what do I do with it? Or I think I want to run this business and I know I can build connections, but I don't know the first thing about putting together a revenue pro forma. Well, you could Google that and you could run down the rabbit hole on that and spend weeks trying to figure out how to do something like that to start up your own business. But now you can do it in a half an hour.
Yeah. And I also am heartened a little bit. You just reminded me that I know that I'd like at least some of the stuff in which we calculate it. Maybe that's my personal preference more than others. But I've always been surprised. Like I came up doing product management, innovation strategy specifically. My job was to come up with a new product and actually figure out how to launch it. And a ton of the analysis that we always learned to do was like break evens. And I've done many projects, many mock-ups, many concepts. They never ever recommended that to me. And from the customer and the client's perspective, it was always one of the most significant. Like, do we pull the trigger on this product or not? Was that again one of those things where I'm like, in a very small and niche community, for me, it was like, no, don't move forward unless you do that. But I guess it kind of noticed that like people go, hey, vibe coding is here. We've got Lovable and other things. But the reality is that to deliver enterprise software still requires an enterprise software developer somewhere on that team, right? Could you theoretically copy one? Yeah. Could you build one and get ahead? Probably not.
Yeah. If you've got a really great, so this is where I'm seeing it is, I'm seeing it with folks that they're good software developers. They're good idea people. They are not salespeople. They are not, and this is, so those ideas that may have died in a dark room in the, company that they were working for, those ideas are now getting out there. And some of the stuff that they weren't good at, they're getting good at, right? Like try and tell a developer to write a blog.
Tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could both talk about your subject matter experts to contribute on something like that. Now it's like I can't, on the one project I've been helping with, I kind of can't get them to stop because they're churning it out and like they're just churning stuff out and they're using AI for it. But because they're also developers, they're like also going back through and fine tooth combing some of it. And I think one of the moments I had recently was to tell one of them, I said, don't make it sound like a salesperson wrote this, Stephen. Make it sound like it came from you because the customer is going to talk to you.
Yeah.
Know that you're going to say there's certain terms that you use. Put them in there.
Yeah.
Make it sound like you. And, it's no longer this this world where those folks have like, well, I can't sell anything, or I'm not comfortable writing content, or I don't know how to brand. And I think there's always been that view of, culture and brand. It's just two sides of the same coin, right?
Wholeheartedly agree.
And now that reality is like, I think you just cannot and should not hide it at all, right? You've got these big, giant companies that are so good at their branding, their messaging, their reputational management. And then you meet somebody, having beers at your neighbor's house, and you meet somebody there and you ask them where they work and they tell you about that company and you say, what's it like working there? And you find out it's very different.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I
mean, you bring up a really good point. People have exponential responses to surprise what do they call it, features or interactions. But like one of the reasons word of mouth marketing works is if you surprise someone with something that's positive and relative but novel in that experience, they're way more likely to actually, like, this is why viral stuff works. It's like it was still relevant, but it was very much a surprise. But it's also the reason the road rage and stuff takes place. Like you surprise someone and they're ready to flip out because they have an exponential response to that kind of surprise stimuli. When you have that, where you see the brand that is the face on the web, and then you talk to someone that works there and they contradict it, it's disheartening. I'm realizing just talking to you, like I think of them as fake, where I'm just like, oh, no, 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 they are not what they seem at all. It's like you almost legitimately feel like someone stole something from you, right? Like,
Yes.
how dare you? You took my time.
Yeah. Yes. And then they are stealing something, right? We don't, there is no way you can get these minutes back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you want authenticity. People have always craved real authenticity, things they can trust. I mean, at our very basics, we're animals. Safety,
Yeah.
trust, security, survival, those things
It's a
matter.
Maslow hierarchy kind of thing, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't get to the really good stuff if you can't fulfill trust, right? It's basic.
Yeah. And that's, I think this is going to allow some more human, some more personalities, I think, some more of the bespoke stuff. Everything started to look and feel, I know people say right now, all the AI stuff is looking the same. It feels the same. It sounds the same. But I mean, I think any of us who've worked in SaaS for the last decade or longer can say that the playbooks for a SaaS company has been essentially the same thing, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
And you could have gotten in and made a splash if you're in a company that's like, pre-series B. You can do some cool innovative stuff, but as soon as it goes like B and beyond and it's PE backed, everybody starts trying to run the same playbook, the same KPIs, the same everything.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the same recipe for growth for every single business and every single market.
Yeah. Man, when you talk to companies and they walk in, like when you talk about kind of your services, like, hey, we're going to look at repricing or pricing your products, what do you have them kind of examine and look at first? Like what's the basic, like, all right, sitting down, first things first, what's this, what's this, what's this? Like, what do you roadmap?
So now, since I'm talking mostly to small startups that aren't going to have a pricing software, I'm usually trying to get them to understand first and foremost, be really honest about what your costs are. So I'm
Yeah.
doing this with some of the folks I know that are out there starting their own thing right now. Is get very honest and realistic about what your costs are. Start there, and then do the research to understand what the appetite is in the market. And yeah, some of it's a little bit of an art because you can't afford the scientist, right? And then be prepared to put your money where your mouth is. So people want right now the move to hybrid based. So especially in the software, it was seat based, and then people got cranky about that. And then there was like the hybrid platform plus consumption. I think it's going to go more towards that and continue to stay that route from here on out. Um, and the next layer that I do like see is all these companies that are promising, oh, if you do this, you're going to have this benefit, performance based. So
I'm
performance
I
price.
have people, yeah. I mean, I've had a couple, we're kind of in the hybrid, where we have like a basic lights on level subscription kind of thing where I'm like, look, it's low enough that, it's not free, but it's enough that you have skin in the game too.
Yeah.
And then usage on top of that. The performance one, the premise is there just because I have absolute confidence in mine. And like having come from, my team is and has been data science heavy. Like we're a small team, we can plug in, but like most people don't know this. 6 data scientists can work on $1 billion company and get far, right? You can actually do quite a bit. You do not need a huge data science team to get far. They don't realize, like, oftentimes, like when you work on projects, like 3+ weeks of it is the prep and the data engineering. And then the data science person comes in and in the last 3 hours to 3 days does their work. And then they get all the credit. But it's a very scalable kind of effort. And we get the, hey, can you do percentage? And I've often found like I want to do it, but also the pain point is I trust mine, but I don't have enough control over the implementation. So they come in and they go, we'll do it. And I go, okay, cool. How do I verify that you do your end of the bargain? Right. Because I can do mine. Um, like we had a university. We gave them and we optimized we kind of did a mixed media modeling thing for them and figured out for like basically, what was the number. It was basically for like every dollar they sent us, we freed up and found where they were misallocating something like $23. It was a huge, huge return, like 4,000 something percent over the course of a year. But they then could only implement on a fraction of that, just like, all right, time recalibration. Well, we have to buy in quarters or whatever else. And so they still got a really, really good ROI, just nowhere near what we were able to actually like kind of operationalize. And that is one of those where we go, how do I actually get control over their implementation was always the pain point.
I was going to say implementation is a huge pain point for everything. That's another, that could be a whole separate conversation of talking about. That's an area that I've talked to a few folks now that are doing some very interesting things on that front of implementation management using AI. And I've got one that I should introduce you to. He's got it down where I think they had like 98%, beginning to end on implementation without any. So it's 2% rework, basically.
Dang.
Mm-hmm. And it was because of the way they were using AI throughout the entire process.
Wow. Wow. That's actually, I mean, again, it's one of these where I've had 2 days ago just talking to people about like, we have to move our KPIs and our performance metrics just because the increment, like it used to be the incremental cost of new content was zero, but it started going into the software and code where I'm just like, we can no longer be impressed by the amount of lines that we write. It's just not impressive anymore because it's basically free. Yeah. How much we have to rework and then cut back to is actually, and then becomes actually customer facing, is ultimately kind of the new KPI that's harder to wrap your face around.
It is. And when you talk about projects, implementations, any sort of project management, that side of it, I mean, that's usually, think about this, like we're people, we want to sit and chit chat with each other and have those conversations. But again, we're going to go to a call right after this. We're going to go to another meeting. We're going to want to say, oh, I had this conversation and this person said roughly this, but we're not going to remember the exacts. And the same thing is happening in implementations. Even your best PMs, your best folks will miss a detail if they don't have that recording, if they don't have, and even with the recording, that is great. But what is the recording doing? Because the end goal isn't record the call. The end goal is to have continuity on the implementation and make sure that it's aligning with the scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we keep treating the symptoms, but we've never managed to figure out, and this is where I think those that are bringing the AI, using AI and bringing things together so that it truly solves the initial problem statement. That's the, and then, to bring it back to the HubSpots of the world, some of these tools, when I'm looking at those now and thinking about them, I'm thinking about which ones are bringing something that's truly unique or different, and helpful. So, Apollo, for instance, great price point, great database. If it was just being used for just automated outreach and it didn't have those other features, maybe, I don't know, but for how long until something else comes out that's less expensive and more intuitive? Yeah. But it's the data side of it. And then now with AI, it's also then taking that data, and then getting the insights from it. So I use Notebook LM a lot. Right now I've got one that's about 109 reference points that I keep adding to it, looking at what's changing in the pricing world and how and what the impact in the software space is going to be.
I hear more and more. I knew about it, but I'm surprised at how often I hear that mentioned by people. The Notebook LM continually gets props. And just out of curiosity too, what other tools are kind of a major part of the day? I always find this is always counterintuitive because, like, as an example, mine is Whisper. Type to dictation thing. I'm like, it's the only one that works. Like, it's the only one where I rarely have to hit backspace. Everything else, I'm like, I don't consider myself having an accent, but man, does Claude's voice recognition is horrible. Whisper, I go, Whisper's good. Whisper's damn good.
I was gonna say, Whisper's now on my list. I'm constantly testing out new things, but I have found lately, in the last month or so, I'm continually going back to Claude Cowork. I have several things that it runs for me every single day. So I'm coming into my desk in the morning. I've got a call, my summary of what I have. I've got call debrief. So if there's people I'm meeting with that day, giving me a whole overview of previous interactions, what's going on, and helping me get prepped. Some little things that are just tasks that I would have wanted to do and in my mind would have really benefited from doing every day. But let's be honest, I'm
Yeah.
going to do that every single morning myself. I've really had the best of intentions. But what happened was I hit snooze and then I hit snooze again. And then I opened up my phone from my bed and read through some stuff and thought about it while I walked the dogs. So, so that's been one of my favorites. Notebook LM I had started using a while back when I was trying to think of how to give quick little clips of explaining dashboards.
Hmm.
So, but now I'm using it all the time for myself on like, when I want to start to compile a lot of stuff for research and keep track of it and just keep sort of pressure testing, like what's changed, what's new, and just my own sanity on things. Right. So I'm sure, like you, we have these ideas that we're like, we don't think they're novel,
Hmm.
but and we assume that everybody thinks this way or everybody who does this job would do it this way, only to find out that's not true and
Yeah.
that it's not a bad thing. So there was a point in time where having the novel idea was a bad thing because that's not the standard way to do it. I think we're back to the world where not the standard way to do it is a good thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
To some extent, I've kind of come to the one of the nights where I was laying awake trying to figure out what to do and what to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years. I realized like a big part of what people pay us to do is to actually just stay ahead of them, even by a few steps, where they're just going, it's a different form of that, but it's been that for years, where there's like, so to your point, come up with a novel thing of just like, hey, here's what we're doing on like governance and implementation and tracking ROI and stuff like that. Stuff that we made internally very, very commonly became actually part of a product just because we didn't realize what a problem it was for other. ROI turned out to be a huge pain in the ass for everybody else. And we went, well, yeah, but we built a fallback thing where we just went, well, why don't we figure out what did we do? It was, let's figure out the average costs of that job on a per hour basis. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'll multiply that and basically just build some quick algebra. We figure out how much can an average human read, write, and then let's negate and pull out the cost of revisions. So if they're using our agents and they're going through like, no, that's not what I was looking for. I'm like, cool, let's deduct that. We'll figure out basically, okay, cool. How many hours of productivity did it basically generate, reading, writing, and revising? Then penalize it for the revisions. And now we basically have, at least this is the human equivalent of hours on productive work that it did for us. And didn't realize that ended up being like, oh, cool. We found a way to actually deploy an ROI metric for most roles. If they had nothing else, it was better than nothing kind of thing. Like, oh, cool. Became like a core part of the product. One of those like, scratching our own itch. And turned out other people liked it.
That's perfect. I mean, and that's another thing too. If you've got that, I mean, and you have a way to track your own customer use,
Mm-hmm.
you can turn that into a performance-based pricing model.
Yeah, we should actually treat it like that. I try. I mean, I largely just went, yeah, your board, your governance, or oftentimes there's a bunch of grants out there where they have to actually have a third party verify their AI and adoption and ROI and use, and throw it in there. So, um, actually, ultimately ended up working. Where else do you get your? I'm always fascinated by where people get their ideas from. I mean, like just out of curiosity, who do you follow? Who do you find is who's the most interesting? Who's got it figured out? Type stuff.
I think what's beautiful right now, I think everybody's willing to admit they don't have it figured out and people are willing to talk. Um, so I will say one of the things that I've been doing for the last few months, it's going to sound weird, but I've been doing outreach on LinkedIn in the same way I would advise a business development rep to go and do it. I'm doing it to build out my network and meet other people and figure out what they're doing. So I probably have 2 to 3 conversations a week with somebody I've never spoken to before that is in a head revenue or marketing or executive role in the software space. And so that's just virtual coffees. And that's how I've been getting some of my best ideas,
Nice.
which it's just, I don't know. I have more time to do it now. And part of the reason I have more time to do it is thanks to AI. And for all the years I've spent running marketing and revenue groups, I was like, why am I not doing this for myself?
It's good for you too. Having come from I have like 30 plus hours of meetings per week, and
Yeah.
um, not nearly enough with like nearby friends and family. Like I rarely leave my cave,
Yeah.
and simultaneously going, I haven't seen my friends that live a mile away in 4 months or whatever. It is very potentially. I actually hope that's one of the things. Hypothesizing that one, we've been inundated with access to so much information, but we do now have a unique opportunity to actually close off a bunch of that noise to say, hey, I'm going to, you know, my wrench dashboard Claude or whatever can be largely the interface that I interface with, and it has no pop-ups and it has no what other distractions, and I can send it off on routines like that. We call it the proactive reactivity. So like your daily schedule, I proactively tell it to go sort through my emails so that I can react to, oh, by the way, here's the 3 that you should actually say hello to, and then actually get some free time, so to speak, to actually go, okay, I need to go break bread with someone nearby. Hopefully, actually, really do hope that that's actually a significant part of the trend. Just because I don't know about you, but I hadn't been on social media to do kids stuff for quite some time, just because every time I opened it, it was just ads where I was just going like, I don't even know these people. This is all straight like hard commercials, which I'm not interested in. So
Yeah, it's ads and it's stuff I'm not necessarily interested in, stuff that isn't necessarily like it's just depending on how much you spend your time on social media, which for those of us who've got marketing backgrounds, I don't know, not much because that was
yeah,
what I have to do for work. I go in there and it just feels like a very dated trope of what it believes I should want to engage with.
yeah, you're right. It feels a little like tacky and hacky.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
now we got a new world. We can actually have conversations with people because Claude can write our morning call briefs for us.
Yeah, well, I do that.
And we
Definitely
can
having
figure out how to use automations to go and meet new folks and set up meetings and
well,
learn
let's
from each other.
connect. I really am hoping that we the when we built some of our original stuff, we were trying to figure out the staying power of it. And I said I wanted to focus on personalized communication, just because one, I knew that more personal stuff would be coming into vogue, but I was going, it still will evolve just because people get used to new communication. Like I remember like the cold outreach stuff that worked even a year ago doesn't work now.
It does not.
People are continually raising the bar on it. And I was going, it's never going to go away between like the personal relationship and that authenticity, at least in marketing. And this is even 10 years ago. Like that's the hardest thing to fake. Like it is very, very, very like big brands pay massive amounts of money to get you to perceive them as a proper noun. Uh,
Yes.
and so being able to actually go, that's why like crowdfunding and stuff took off. I'm like, no, the person in the garage now has a platform that makes them as interesting as Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
And I think we're continuing on that where people are going, okay, I'm hungering for the human to human connection.
People are hungry for that. And we're seeing it even in the way some of the AI adoption. If you ask people who are using AI, you're going to get such a mix of responses, right? You're going to have those folks that work in companies that sell AI products that are just like, yeah, I sometimes use it. Or, yeah, they rolled it out and we all have seats, but there's no clear orchestration around how we should use it. So I see a lot of companies kind of rolling it out like they do in preschool when the teacher says it's music time and just takes the big bins of all the different noisemakers, dumps it
Yeah.
on the floor so kids can play around and get comfortable and figure out what they like.
Yeah.
That's sort of what's happening in some of the biggest companies with AI right now.
It's the efficient but not effective, right? It's like everyone's using it. It's like, yeah, what for? I'm like,
Yeah. But it's kind of, people are starting to have fun. I think that's, so that part's good. But I think it's also an awakening for folks that acknowledgement of what they do and don't know.
yeah,
And hopefully maybe a little comfort level about talking to other people and learning from each other again.
yeah, yeah. That would be the. I mean, I hope so. With all the scary news about what it can and is, and all of the when you see people that are like leaving, you see like the ethicists leaving these companies just to go live in the woods. Like not to join another company, but to just live in the woods. You go,
Yeah.
they saw something that scared them a lot. And I hope that I've talked to both, and I very much hope that it's the positive direction where I think that one is the premise of that we're going to run out of compute capacity because there isn't enough natural resources to power all the data centers that they're building. So they're going to have to look for other places to find compute. They're going to find all of our desktops, laptops, and whatever. And then we're going to kind of rent static and our computers that are just sitting idle. And then hopefully we get to inject some of our personality and stuff into that as kind of decentralized AI with morals. And there's more good people than bad. Therefore, that's how we can hopefully continue to innovate and do stuff without actually blowing up the world and blowing up ourselves. So
that's the hope. That is absolutely the hope. Right. All the fingers crossed. Maybe back to what I'm listening to. One of the reasons I've stopped listening to some of the political podcasts and all that I used to listen to a lot. And I'm sticking to the ones that are a little lighter and a little bit more about people relationships. So this will be my one plug for Neil Brennan's podcast, Blocks. Which,
it's a podcast, huh? I like
that. Whole podcast always has somebody new on it, and they talk about their blocks, and it's just people talking about being people.
He's a thoughtful dude.
He is.
I like that one. I like that. Where can people find you, Kelly?
Well, let's see. Where am I? Usually lurking around on LinkedIn, looking for folks to have coffee with.
Nice.
I live just outside of Indianapolis, but I'm a former Chicagoan, so those are my two cities. If there's food, comedy show, or music, that's where I'll be.
Nice. I love it. And other than Neil, who are other comedians that you like? I'm a huge comedy fan.
Oh, my partner teases me all the time. Sam Morril can say literally anything, and I laugh, no matter how inappropriate it is. So he's one of my favorites right now because he just has a way of making the most horrific shit funny.
I love it. He's good. What's his? We Might Be Drunk with Mark Norman too, right? Yep.
Also a great one.
Yeah. I dig it. Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the time with you. Fun to talk to.
This was awesome, Dan. Anytime you want to chat, you know where to find me.
Awesome. My pleasure.